Good day, students. Today we will continue our second poem in our poetry selection. Previously, we have studied the poem They Are Hostile Nations, and in this poem we dealt with the theme of reconciliation and forgiveness and how to be kind even to your enemies in order to be able to survive your life well. Today we will continue the same theme but in a different poem and in a different way. Our poem is entitled Under a Certain Little Star, and our objectives for this poem are: first of all, we need to identify the poetic device personification. What does personification mean? And we need to differentiate between the end-stop line and the run-on line. Let's start first with a very small summary about this poem. Under a certain little star, or under one small star. This title explains how microscopic we are. Microscopic here means very small and tiny. We are compared to the small star. Furthermore, small star compared to the infinite cosmos. Cosmos means universe. I have come to believe that from this title and poem, it suggests that regardless of what the writer Winslow Skymborza says, her points of apology does not matter to anybody. There is no mourning or there is no sadness from the heavens of the space and time that they could truly be affected. The need for her and our existence is insignificant, it's unimportant. A star here represents both joy and glory. Title portrays that the speaker has no joy nor glory and is under here being defined as no joy or no glory. A critical thesis here, a critical thinking is that the poem Under One Small Star by Winslow Szymborska suggested that nothing in life is perfect or complete, and that one must see this imperfectness or imperfection and embrace it. You don't have to be seeking perfection all the time. People make mistakes, they commit errors, and life goes on. Let's start with the poem. My apologies to chance for calling it necessity. My apologies to necessity in case I'm mistaken. Don't be angry, happiness that I take you for my own. May the dead forgive me, and their memories but a flicker. Here, my apologies to chance for calling it necessity. This line means that by chance the speaker encounters a surprise and that a necessity must be taken in order to deal with this surprise. For example, a soldier versus enemy soldier. Look at line 3 of the poem, which is don't be angry, happiness that I take you for my own. This line and many of the other lines in the poem use a type of figurative language which is called personification. Personification means in which an inanimate, an object which does not move or idea is given a human characteristic. Point out that one way the poet personifies happiness is by directly addressing it as if it is a person. Okay, so we'll be dealing with this figure of speech which is entitled personification later on and in details. Then we can continue the poem, line 5. My apologies to time for the quantity of world overlooked per second. My apologies to an old love for treating a new one as the first. Forgive me, far off wars, for carrying my flowers home. Forgive me, open wounds, for pricking my finger. Bringing flowers home refers to the soldiers that the speaker has killed during war, and that the death of the speaker's enemies resulted in their coffins and flowers being brought back to their homes. The speaker apologizes to those families of the dead. Death is one of the greatest disasters that a human being can witness. So the speaker is trying to give an apology for people who died, especially soldiers in war. Okay, here again we may continue. Yeah. My apologies to those in that station for sleeping soundly at 5 in the morning. Pardon me, hounded hope, for laughing sometimes. Pardon me, deserts, for not rushing in with a spoonful of war. And you, O hope, small the same bird for years in the same cage, staring, motionless, all with the same spot. Here we have a repetition of the word apologies, shows that the speaker is sincere for whatever he or she may have done. It shows that the poem is based on an apologetic theme, which is the theme of apologizing. In line 13 to 15 flow together to paint a word picture for the reader. The tone temporarily softens, and the poet seems to be sincere in the request of forgiveness. Okay. And then we have some key words. They are repeated in the poem, or they are very prominent in the poem. We have the word apologies, forgive, apologize, and pardon. These words they are present throughout the whole poem. They denote, or they show that the meaning of expressing regret for the wrongdoings. When you apologize, you feel regret. When you apologize, you don't feel well. You understand your mistake, and you appreciate that the person in front of you will accept your apology. In this case, these words connotate, they have the idea that the desiring of sympathetic feeling. So these are very common key words. They are repeated throughout the entire poem. In line 15, we have absolve me, even if you happen to be stuffed. My apologies to the tree filled for 4 table legs. My apologies to large questions for small answers. Truth, do not pay me too much attention. Here the author uses a difference in line structure to shift the tone of the poem. Most of the lines are complete sentences that briefly present single thoughts. The tone created is one that succinct and seems almost accusing rather than apologetic as the poet claims to be. So here we are speaking about the tone of the poem. Here in this line as well, let's go back to line 20. Bear with me, O mystery of being, for pulling threads from your veil. Soul, don't blame me, I have got you so seldom. My apologies to everything that I cannot be everywhere. My apologies to all for not knowing how to be every man and woman. I know that as long as I live, nothing can excuse me. Then we have line 25. Since I am my own obstacle, do not hold it against me, O speech, that I borrow weighty words, and then labor to make them light. So here the writer and the title of the poem under one small star, it suggested that although war may be necessity, it does not always lead to joy and glory and happiness, but instead it leads to devastation, destruction, and depression of the emotional after effects. The emotions of a soldier's life is difficult, not just because of the effects of war, and that they must engage in violent firefights, but also because of the mental factors that take place. Taking the life of another individual, whether viewed as an enemy or not, is an uneasy task, because at the end of the day, a soldier knows that another individual isn't coming home to his or her family, and that it was a result of the soldier's action. Finally, we have a summary of the poem, or we have actually a summary of the 2 poems. They Are Hostile Nations by Margaret Atwood expresses the need for reconciliation among enemies. So again, As I have mentioned before, this is the main theme of the poem. Whether individuals or nations, it speaks to the need for kindness and forgiveness and the fact that we need each other to survive. In Under Certain Little Star, our today's poem, the speaker asks forgiveness and pardon from a variety of entities, inanimate objects, concepts, ideas even, places, animals and people. The tone is very humble, and her apologies seem to reflect an understanding and an appreciation that although our lives may seem trivial, easy and like nothing, in the greater scheme of things, to us they have monumental importance. Your life is the most important thing, of course, but like in comparison to the whole universe, so we are nothing. Here we have a very nice insight, like understanding something. They are hostile nations. It calls for forgiveness on pragmatic grounds, on practical grounds. Without peace and cooperation between countries, they cannot survive the challenge of the future. But in today's poem, Under Certain Little Star, it seems to be a call for great and universal empathy and feelings of guilt for everything not done. But the last line reveals an ambiguity or a difficulty. Why is the speaker working so hard to make her weighty words seem light? So again, we have sometimes to connect to our essential question. The essential question of the whole unit, if you remember, that what motivates us to forgive. In They Are Hostile Nations, the motivation for forgiveness is partly a self-interest. It means it is something very personal. Forgiving someone can give both people a chance at a better life. But in Under a Certain Little Star, the narrator seems, or the poet seems to ask for forgiveness based on an unreasonably strong sense of guilt. Like here in this poem, you don't have, like, there is no need of guilt. Like, there is no guilt here. You just need to forget and let live. We got to the end of our presentation and our video. Thank you so much, and see you soon in another video. Goodbye and have a great day.